Hello and welcome. I'm Ankit and you are watching the Daily News Simplified. Now today being 15th of July, we'll cover 7 important articles from the perspective of both mains and prelims examination. Now without wasting your time, let us straight move to the first article. But even before that, please make sure to hit the like button if you like this video. Now moving on to the first article. This article you can see appeared in the text and context section of the Hindu newspaper. And this article highlights that the government of West Bengal has filed a case against the central government, highlighting that despite the West Bengal government revoking the general consent that it provides to the CBI, despite this revoking of general consent, the CBI is continuing with its investigation in West Bengal. And Supreme Court has admitted this particular case in and it will hear it despite arguments from various sides. Hence, this news article will have implications on decisions of other states who have withdrawn the general consent that they offer to CBI. Now, based on this article, we'll be discussing in detail about what are the powers of the Central Bureau of Investigation and what are the issues that has been faced by CBI in recent times. But before concluding this article, we'll also discuss a suggestive way forward in order to how to make this body more effective. Now, as you can see from the syllabus, this body becomes important from GS paper 2 perspective because the syllabus highlights statutory, regulatory and various quasi-judicial bodies. Also, if you see, question appeared on CBI back in the year 2021 in mains examination. So, this topic becomes important from mains perspective. So let us understand what is this body called Central Bureau of Investigation, which in general has been abbreviated commonly as CBI. Now this CBI was established in the year 1963 by a resolution of Ministry of Home Affairs. Now this body was set up based on the recommendations of Santhanam Committee back in the year 1963. Now this body, it derives most of its power from Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of the year 1946. Additionally, the powers of this body can also be provided through Central Vigilance Commission Act of the year 2005 and through Lokpal and Lokayukta Act of the year 2013. Now, as you can see, this body derives its power from another act. Hence, you can say this body is non-statutory as well as non-constitutional in nature. Now, as I have highlighted, the CBI, it is headed by a post called Director of CBI, who serves on a 2-year tenure, which has been provided by Central Vigilance Commission Act of the year 2003. Also, the selection committee of this CBI director, it constitutes the Prime Minister of India, Leader of the Opposition in Lok Sabha, as well as Chief Justice of India or another judge of Supreme Court appointed by the Chief Justice of India. Now, as you can understand, this selection committee comprises of multiple individuals, which is made sure to make this body less politically inclined. Now, let us discuss what are the functions of the body. The primary function of this body are 5 functions. The first is that this agency, it deals with cases of corruption, bribery or misconduct by government employees, particularly the employees of the central government. Additionally, as you can see, it also investigates cases related to infringement of fiscal and economic laws. It deals or it investigates cases related to serious crimes which have either national or international ramifications. Now, these crimes can be undertaken by members of organized crime or another bodies such as professional criminals. Further, this body is also responsible for coordination of anti-corruption agencies, be it central agencies or police department which functions under the control of state governments. Also, you can see this body is responsible for conducting investigations of conventional crimes. These crimes can be either murder, kidnapping, or rape, etc. And this investigation of conventional cases, which is done by CBI, it is done either based on request of state governments or under the directions of higher courts in the country, that is Supreme Courts and High Courts. So you can understand at broad level, this body acts as a premier investigating agency of the central government. So in this regard, let us understand what are the issues and controversies which has been faced by CBI in recent times. And first and probably the most important issue that has been faced by this government is, or this body, is that of limited jurisdiction. Because as I've already highlighted, the matters such as police as well as public order, it comes under the exclusive control of the state governments in our country. So to investigate cases which falls under the exclusive purview of state government, this body, that is CBI, it requires what is called as an general consent of the state governments. In other words, the state governments will have to give consent to CBI in order to investigate cases in their jurisdiction. But of late, in recent times, we have seen that many states, that as much as 9 states in our country, which includes West Bengal as well as Tamil Nadu, they have withdrawn their general consent which they give to CBI. And as a result, the jurisdiction of CBI in state such as these 9 states have become limited. That every time they decide to register and investigate a case, they have to approach state governments individually based on different cases, especially in the states which have withdrawn the general consent. So this was the most important challenge that has been beset with CBI in recent times. Now also we have seen that this body has been alleged, this body has been interfered with politically, because in quite recent times, not just under this particular government but also in the governments before, we have seen that this body has been used exclusively to target members of the opposition party, whereas same is not the case in case of members of the ruling party. So you can understand, it has been alleged by opposition parties that political interference in the workings of CBI has hampered its effectiveness. Also, in recent times, we see there was this director of CBI called Mr. Alok Verma. So based on the controversy, the government of the day, it decided to remove this individual from office and he was sent on leave. So this example glaringly highlights how the process and procedures of CBI has been beset with political interference. Also, there's another challenge called overlapping oversight. Because as I've already highlighted, in matters which are related to and also I forgot to tell you that Supreme Court, due to alleged interference which are political in nature, it termed CBI as a caged parrot. Now let us deal with the term of overlapping oversight. Because CBI, in cases which are related to corruption under the Prohibition of Corruption Act of the year 1988, it functions under the aegis of Central Vigilance Commission. Sorry. Now against, in the cases related to Prevention of Corruption Act of the year 1998, it functions under the control of Central Vigilance Commission. Whereas in cases which has been referred to CBI by Lokpal, Lokpal exercises their jurisdiction over CBI in particular cases. And this jurisdiction is so much that even the officers of CBI who are overseeing the cases which are referred to them from Lokpal, they cannot be transferred without the explicit consent of Lokpal. So due to this overlapping oversight, which is as the government is responsible for oversight, in addition to Central Vigilance Commission and Lokpal, it has resulted into absence in autonomy of this body. Because instead of acting independently, this body is rather responsible for conduct of investigations due to oversight by three different bodies. Also, in recent times, the number of cases which have been referred to, say, CBI has increased in recent past. And because of this increase in number of cases and not increase in corresponding number of manpower, we have seen an efficiency in use of resource and manpower of the CBI. And because of this inefficient resources, such as rise in cases and workload, it has resulted into delays in conduct of investigation by this body. For example, there was this very important scam that happened in a country which was related to allocation of 2G spectrum. Also, cases which have been in limelight, such as death of a popular film star, all these cases were referred to CBI. But what is important to note that due to delays in investigation, the investigation of these high profile cases, they were even not completed in time. Also, this body suffers from allegation of lack of transparency, because this body has not accepted by making documents public under the aegis of RTI Act of the year 2005. So due to this lack of transparency, it is highlighted that the working of this agency is opaque and it does not publicly publicizes the information which is related to public concern. So these are the issues and controversies which have been faced by CBI in recent past. And in this regard, let us understand what should be the suggestive way forward. Now, these suggestions are passed or are given by various bodies such as second ARC or parliamentary standing committees, and these suggestions, they are intended to make this body more efficient and effective. The first suggestion in this regard is the need to bring a comprehensive legislation, because as I've already highlighted, this body derives its power from Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, Central Vigilance Commission Act, as well as Lokpal and Lokayukta Act of the year 2013. So instead of borrowing its power from multiple acts, it is necessary to bring a comprehensive legislation which will highlight roles and responsibilities of this body. Now, as will give this body a higher recognition, that is by providing statutory or constitutional recognition to this body, it will make the powers of this body more and more thorough. Additionally, there is a need to enhance the jurisdiction of this body. Now, this suggestion was highlighted by the 24th Standing Committee of the Parliament, and it highlighted that there is a need to enhance the jurisdiction, that the agencies should consider these cases on its own, that is through suo motu powers, or it should have a pan-Indian jurisdiction. Also, this body highlights that the CBI's jurisdiction should also extend to investigating of corruption cases against the members of All India Services, that is Indian Administrative Service, Indian Police Service, and Indian Foreign Service. Further, as we have seen, there is a need to increase the accountability of this body. Why? Because as I have already highlighted, this body is beset with political interference, because this body is responsible or answerable ultimately to the executive, that is the government of the country. So in this regard, this suggestion, it highlights that instead of making it accountable to the government, the CBI should be accountable to the Parliament of India, and the performance of this body should be actively enhanced or should be monitored by a parliamentary standing committee. Also, there is a need to strengthen the coordination with other investigative agencies and police forces, because the ultimate aim of any anti-corruption investigative agencies is to get convictions. So for that, there's a need to strengthen its corruption coordination with other bodies such as state police organizations as well as other investigative agencies in this regard. Because all this increase in coordination is aimed to reduce the duplication of investigative work and also increase the efficiency of disposal of cases. So, with increased accountability, we are looking to reduce political interference. And with strengthening coordination, we are looking to reduce duplication of investigative work and enhancing the efficiency of this body. Also, by enhancing the jurisdiction, will make this body more effective in considering the case on its own, having a pan India jurisdiction, and also will enable this body to investigate corruption cases with respect to all India services officer. Further, by providing this body will with a comprehensive legislation, will give this body a statutory or a constitutional recognition, in addition to providing its roles and responsibilities in writing. So this was all for first article of the day, which related to Central Bureau of Investigation. And with this, we quickly move to the second article of the day, which you can see appeared in the op-ed section of the Hindu newspaper. Now, this article highlights that recently the Karnataka government has brought in a bill to regulate platform-based gig workers in the state of Karnataka. Now, this issue, that is gig workers, has been in news in recent past. Because as you can recall, in the year 2021, the body called Niti Aayog, it came up with a report highlighting the size of gig economy in India. And this report, it highlighted that as much as 7.7 million or 77 lakh workers in our country, they are employed as a gig worker. And this number is expected to rise to 23.5 million by the year 2030. Now, in terms of skill required to do this kind of work, it is expected that with coming times, the number for low skilled as well as high skilled gig job will be in rise in Indian economy. Now, what are these gig workers? For example, if you decide to start a restaurant, so to cook food in your restaurant, you employ two cooks and you pay these cooks with 30,000 per month of salary. Now, these are the examples of permanent employees, which are salaried employees that you provide these workers with salary every month. Now, what happens if your restaurant sees more customers during the time of weekend? So, to meet this increased demand, you decide to hire two cooks on a temporary basis. And you say to these two cooks that come on days when I call you, especially during the times of weekend when the restaurant witnesses high footfall. So to compensate these two temporary cooks, you offer that you will pay these cooks rupees 1.5 thousand per day of their work, and you expect these cooks to come for 7 to 8 days a month. So these temporary cooks that you have hired, they are example of gig workers. Now, there's also a separate category of gig workers. For example, drivers who have registered themselves on Ola and Uber, and the delivery boys that come on food delivery apps such as Swiggy or Zomato. Now, these are termed as platform workers because these workers, they utilize a technology platform to gain their work. Also, these are temporary workers, hence they are also gig workers, but they have been separately categorized as temporary workers. However, make no mistake, all of them are examples of gig work. Now, as I've already highlighted, this gig economy is subjected to increase in recent times. That is, by 2030, it is expected that as much as 23.5 million people will be employed as a gig worker. Now, this topic becomes important from GS Paper 3 perspective, because in the syllabus, you'll highlight Indian economy and issues relating to employment. Further, questions related to how to create more jobs, They have been asked by UPSC before, so you can understand this topic becomes important from mains perspective. Now let us understand what are the reasons for rapid growth in of gig economy in the country. I'm sorry. Now the first and probably the most important reason is the rise in digital communication across the country. Because we have seen, due to cheaper availability of mobile internet, the penetration of mobile internet has increased throughout the country. And this has provided with workers the chance to access jobs even in other geographical locations. This means that access to jobs have become independent of their geographical locations. For example, even if an individual is situated in a city like Delhi, they can work for a technological company which is located in work through the use of mobile internet, that is through the use of digital communications. Further, gig economy it also provides benefits for employers. How? Because these employers they prefer workers which are available for low cost, and also it reduces the chance or the ability for compliance that they have to file for their permanent workers. So due to lower cost per employee as well as reducing the amount of compliance that they have to make, it acts as a benefit for employers who instead choose to employ gig workers. Also, this gig work it provides the employers the benefit to hire and fire as per the demands of their company, in addition to making them accessible to a larger pool of workers. So all of these are benefits for employers, and let us now understand what are the benefits for employees who engage themselves in gig economy. Now this gig work it provides workers with flexibility in their working style, that they can access work even in other geographical locations based on the connectivity or mobile internet. Further, it also enables the chance of remote working, and it also provides the workers with the flexibility to engage in work for more than one company, which is not the case with salaried employees. Also, all this gig work it is located to increase the work life balance of a gig worker. So all of these are factors, that is developments in digital communication such as cheap mobile internet. It has removed the geographical barrier location, which was location of geographical barriers, and also it gives immense benefits to employers, that it reduces the cost of labor for companies, and it also gives them the ability to hire and fire as per the demands of the company. Further, it makes company the available with large pool of workers that they can hire and fire based on different geographical locations. Also for employees, it gives them the flexibility to work in more than one company. It also gives them the facility to work remotely as well. Also, the gig worker they also enjoy the positive work life balance which is essential for every individual. Now let us understand what are the existing framework in India for regulation of gig economy. Now government of India it passed four labor laws in the country which consolidated more than 40 erstwhile labor laws. The first was Code of Wages, which was enacted in the year 2019. Now this code it provides universal minimum wage for both workers engaged in organized and unorganized sector. And the unorganized sector here, it also covers gig workers. Also, next year there was this enactment of Code of Social Security. Now, this Code of Social Security it was passed by Ministry of Labor and Employment, and it gave a recognition to gig workers in addition to platform workers, and it also made it responsible for both state and central government to pass various social security benefits to gig workers and platform workers as well. These benefits include pension funds, establishment of health and safety insurance, or as far as other accidental and risk coverage, which is aimed to provide social security for gig workers. Also, government brought this eShram platform, which acts as a platform for registration of all workers who are engaged in unorganized sector, and it also includes gig workers. Further, as you can see, in addition to governments such as Karnataka, even the Rajasthan government enacted a law to regulate the gig economy in the state of Rajasthan. Now, there was this important provision in the law which was passed by Rajasthan government, that the government established a board which was meant to register as well as hear grievances for gig workers in the state of Rajasthan, and also to supplement the social security for these workers. The act also favored establishment of a social security fund which will then provide social security benefits to gig workers of the state. So these are attempts for regulating gig economy in India. However, despite these attempts, the issues have been constantly faced by the gig economy and the workers who are engaged in gig economy across the country. So let us discuss these challenges one by one. Now, you have already highlighted that the gig economy, it provides workers with the flexibility to work anywhere. However, despite such definitions, we have consistently seen that these gig workers are also under consistent control of their employers. For example, if a poor person decides to start a taxi business, so he or she would not have the money to buy a car. So in that case, the employee or the worker, they approach either Ola or Uber to provide them with a loan to buy a car. However, as these companies, they provide loans to workers, and it may also impose certain conditions on the workers that they have to serve on their platform for considerable amount of time. Also, these platform companies, they employ algorithms which design or which provide how many number of hours that a worker have to work in order to get certain benefits. So because of these algorithms and user conditions which have been imposed by employers, we have seen that even gig economy workers, they have been under constant control of the company. And this is supplemented by the fact that members of gig economy, they lack certain labor rights which are otherwise extended to industrial workers. For example, industrial workers, they have the right to gain minimum wage or to work certain amount of hours and to have certain benefits also, such as right to form a trade union. Now, all these benefits which are extended to regular industrial workers, they are not extended to members of the gig economy, which you can understand leads to unequal bargaining powers of the members of gig economy. But because of this unequal bargaining power, the members of the gig economy, they are unable to bargain with the platforms, which results into their poor service conditions. As we have seen, many gig workers, they are subjected to working of longer hours, and also they work in difficult working conditions which makes them vulnerable to, say, accidents. And this highlights that the gig economy, despite earning substantial amount of money, they are subjected to poor working conditions which are otherwise not given to a regular worker. That members of the gig economy, they work for longer hours, and also they are subjected to difficult working environment which makes them vulnerable to death and accident. Further, it is also supplemented by the fact that their plight, it is supplemented by absence of social security, because these platform and gig companies, they do not contribute to the workers' social security. Whereas on the other hand, regular industrial workers, they are eligible to get provident fund benefits, gratuity benefits, as well as fixed amount of leaves every year. However, due to this absence of social security, the gig workers, they are unable to get benefits such as provident fund benefits and other pension benefits which are otherwise extended to industrial workers in general. Also, because of all these problems combined, the nature of job, by virtue of it being temporary, it is temporary in nature, and it does not also provide these gig workers with an amount of job security. Additionally, due to use of algorithm which are not transparent in general, we have seen that the income stability that are provided to gig workers is also not sufficient, because the workings of these algorithms which are employed by companies such as platform companies, these are opaque in nature, which does not correctly reflect the amount of income that a gig worker should get. So we can understand the income that are achieved by this gig workers, it varies substantially, thereby rendering them with income instability. And all of this has resulted into a kind of social stigma which gives a negative connotation to workers engaged in gig economy. So in this regard, let us understand what should be the suggestive way forward in order to make the lives of gig workers better. Now, the first need is to have a proper estimation of how many gig workers are employed in the country currently. Because the most recent number that we use to quote the amount of gig workers, it is based on a 2021 figure which was brought by Niti Aayog. So in this regard, we need to first estimate how many gig workers are there in the country, and based on this estimation, the government will then bring major reforms in the area. So in this regard, we should make registration in e-Shram portal mandatory for all gig workers, as it will help the government to estimate how many gig workers are there in the economy. Then the government should also look to provide these gig workers with some amount of social security, because this social security is very much essential for gig workers and their financial security in general. So in this regard, there has been suggestion of bringing what is called as a race framework. Now this race framework, it is intended to first recognize what are the varied challenges are there for gig workers in the economy, and based on these challenges, there is a need to augment the existing resources for social security. Now, based on this augmentation, it is necessary to provide increased social security for gig economy by virtue that they are more vulnerable than the regular workers. Also, there is a need to incorporate suggestions from both corporate sector who employ these gig workers and also from the representatives of gig workers in general, so as to estimate what is the ideal way forward for providing them with social security. Also, there's a need to extend support to these gig workers, that they should be made aware of what kind of government benefits exist for them, and also how to utilize this benefit. And also, there's a need to ensure that benefits are given to every gig worker in the country. So this is what race framework provide in order to extend social security to gig workers as well. Also, as we have already highlighted, that these gig workers are vulnerable from gaining finances from the platform companies themselves. So rather, we should provide, or the government should look forward to provide these gig workers with institutional finances so as to supplement their income. And this finances can be provided by banks, other financial institutions, as well as non-banking finance commissions. Now, also to incentivize these organizations to extend loans to gig workers, we should make the loans which are given to gig workers eligible to be classified as a loan under the priority sector lending criteria. Also, there's a need to increase the levels of skill development for gig workers, Because the Niti Aayog report, it highlighted that the amount of gig workers or gig work which is higher skilled in nature will be increased in recent times. So in this regard, the platform companies should collaborate with National Skill Development Corporation as well as Ministry of Skill Development so as to provide these gig workers with what you can call a skill certificate, as this skill certificate will certify the amount of skill that the gig workers have, and in addition will also promote these gig workers to have skill development from both formal and informal skill training institutes. Additionally, there is a need to enhance social inclusion as far as gig economy is concerned. So in this regard, the government should incentivize companies which are providing jobs to women gig workers as well as gig workers belonging to the persons with disability community. So all these are suggestive way forward, which should first estimate how many gig workers are there, and based on this estimation, the government should look to provide these workers with some sense of social security. Additionally, to prevent these workers to be controlled by platform companies, we need to provide them with institutional finances. And also, this institutional finance should be classified under lending under the priority sector lending criteria. Further, to enhance their skill levels, we also need to provide them with skill certificate. In addition to enhancing the social inclusion by incentivizing companies who hire gig workers such as women gig workers as well as gig workers belonging to person with disability community. So this was all for today's discussion in the topic of gig work. And we also move to next article of the day. Now, if you see closely, there were two articles, first of which appeared in the Hindu newspaper and the second which appeared in the Business Line newspaper. Now, these two articles deal with one thing, that despite the Article 280 of the Indian Constitution, which provides for Constitution of Finance Commission, as this Finance Commission is responsible for devolution of financial resources from from center to various state governments. However, despite this constitutional criteria, that is establishing a constitutional body which has a fixed formula for both vertical as well as horizontal devolution of funds, the devolution of funds between union government on one hand and state government on another has faced certain challenges. So this article was previously covered by me on 7th of February this year itself, where I highlighted that despite the various exclusive jurisdictions and taxes which the union government and state government collect, there have been an imbalance in the amount of finances with various governments in the country. So to balance this imbalance, the government or the constitution, it provides for Constitution of Finance Commission under the Article 280 of the Constitution. However, despite such arrangement, we have seen various areas of erosion which has eroded the fiscal federalism in the country. That despite a separate set of formulas, the devolution or the allocation of resources have not been unjust. So in this regard, we have also dealt with various suggestions on how to make these devolutions more fair and just for not just southern states but also to other states as well. So please make sure after the session ends, please refer to the DNS of 7th of February 2024 if you want to know more about this topic. So with this, we move to separate set of articles. Now the second set of articles, the first of which appeared in the Hindu newspaper. Now if you look at this article closely, you'll find a separate term called alpha. Now the UPSC's focus, especially with the prelims of the year 2024, we have seen increased questions related to financial markets of the country. Also, if you can see terms such as alpha and beta, they are important from prelims perspective as well. Because the term beta, if you see, was asked in the prelims of the year 2023. So in this regard, let us understand what is this term alpha means. Now, to understand the term alpha, we need to first understand different types of funds. Now, these funds, they are investment vehicles or investment opportunity, which consist of various debt as well as equity instruments such as bonds, as well as government securities, as well as stocks, as well as mutual funds. Now, these funds, they can have varied amount of debt and equity instruments, which provides venues to investors to invest in them. Now, they are categorized into two different types. The first, they are known as active funds. Now, these active funds have certain set of both debt and equity instruments, which requires the active role of a fund manager. Now, this fund manager of an active fund, he or she decides what instrument to buy, hold, or sell so as to make this an attractive investment opportunity. And the role of the fund manager in active fund is to provide higher returns, which is otherwise called as an alpha. And this higher return is higher in compared to other benchmark index. So you can also understand, in other words, that the role of fund manager is to outperform the benchmark index and to give higher returns to the investors in the active funds. And this higher return is termed as alpha. Also, there is second set of funds which are called passive funds. Now, in these passive funds, the index fund, they are modeled directly on various indexes or benchmarks. So naturally, you can understand the role of fund manager in this regard becomes passive. That the fund manager makes changes to the funds or passive funds based on the or direct replication of benchmark indexes and other investment vehicles based on which these passive funds are modeled upon. So based on this information, let us now solve the practice question. In context of finance, the term alpha refers to which of the following? Is it option A, option B, option C, or option D? Now I'll expect each and every one of your viewers to reply in the comment section what is the answer to this practice question. Now let us move to the second article of the day, which you can see also appeared in the Hindu newspaper. Now this article highlights that the bank balances or our deposits in commercial banks, they are also subjected to insurance which protects our deposits in these banks. And this insurance, it is offered by a company called Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation, otherwise abbreviated as DICGC. Now, strengthening the health of Indian banking sector, be it through capital adequacy requirements or through insurance, it is important from prelims examination. Case in point, this PYQ of the year 2018 on credit adequacy ratio. So in this context, let us understand what is this Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation of India. Now this body, it is a statutory body which was formed as per the provisions of Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation Act of the year 1961. Now this body, it is a 100% subsidiary or 100% owned by country's Reserve Bank, that is Reserve Bank of India. Now all the scheduled commercial banks, foreign banks, small finance banks, they are insured by the provisions of DICGC except the primary cooperative banks in the country. So except these primary cooperative banks, all the banks in our country are insured through DICGC. Now the amount which is covered by this particular insurance is 5 lakh rupees per bank, which means if an individual has 5 different accounts in a bank, despite these 5 accounts, the total amount of sum insured will be 5 lakhs. However, if an individual has 5 different accounts in 5 different banks, this will increase the amount of insurance per individual based on the number of how many different accounts they have in different banks. Further, the insurance premium which is paid, it is paid by the banks themselves, and the current rate of premium which is paid by banks is 12 paisa for every 100 rupees of deposit. Now there are various type of deposit which are not covered under the scheme, and these are this which you can look after the session ends. Further, whenever the bank undergoes liquidation, the application for recovery of deposit money, it is considered by DGC, and it makes sure to process this application after the 2 months since the application has been sought. So you can understand the beneficiaries, they are eligible only to get their funds after the liquidation of bank take place. So based on this information, let us now solve the practice question. Consider the following statements about deposit insurance in India. The first statement: deposit insurance is provided for all scheduled commercial banks and deposit taking NBFCs in India. I'm sorry. Now these are provided for all commercial banks in the country. However, these are not provided for NBFCs in the country. Hence, statement 1 here is incorrect. The statement second, DICGC, it is a 100% owned subsidiary of RBI and it provides deposit insurance. It is a correct statement here, as I have already highlighted. Statement third, the premium for the deposit insurance is provided by the depositors directly. Again, incorrect, because the insurance premium, it is provided to DICGC by the banks and not the depositors. Also, the insurance amount up to 5 lakh is provided by DICGC to the depositor upon the liquidation of bank, which is a correct statement, as I have already highlighted here, that DICGC is liable to pay the money to the depositors only after the liquidation takes place. So as you can understand, statement 2 and 4 here are correct. Hence, option B is the right answer to this practice question. Moving on to the next set of articles, which you can see appeared in the Hindu as well as the Indian Express newspaper. Now, this news article highlights that the treasury of the famous Jagannath Temple, which is located in Puri in Odisha, it has been opened after a period of 46 years. Now, the news article becomes important from prelims perspective because you can see developments related to various famous temples across the country have been subject of UPSC question in the past. Also, this topic deals with GS paper 1, that is salient aspects of architecture from ancient to modern times. Now, in this regard, let us know more about the Jagannath Temple. Now, this temple, it is located in Odisha, as you've already known, and it is one of the 108th Abhimana Kshetram, which belongs to the Vaishnavite tradition. Now, also various famous Vaishnavite saints such as Ramanujacharya, Nimbrakacharya, Vallabhacharya, and Ramananda, they were closely associated with the temple. For example, Ramanujacharya, he established a mutt in the southeast corner of the temple. Further, the worship in this temple, it is performed by tribal priests who belong to Bhil Sabar community. Also, it is important to note that the image of the Lord Jagannath, which is prayed for in the temple, it is made up of wood, particularly a variant of neem wood. And this idol or image has been replaced ceremoniously between the period of 12 to 19 years by an exact replica. Now, this particular temple, it is one of the Char Dham belonging to Hindu tradition, in addition to Dwarka, Badrinath, as well as Rameshwaram, which is located in the state of Tamil Nadu. Also, this is famous for the Rath Yatra, which is taken from this temple every year in the month of June or July. Now, this present Jagannath temple, it was rebuilt by king of an eastern Ganga dynasty, that is King Anantvarman. And this was constructed back in 10th century in Common Era. Further, the complex, it was further developed by kings belonging to Ganga dynasty as well as the following Gajpati dynasty. Now this temple, it is an example of Kalinga architecture, which is a subcategory of Nagara school of architecture, which you can find in most of the temples located in northern part of the country. So based on this information, let us now quickly solve the practice question. With reference to Jagannath Temple situated in Puri, consider the following statements. The temple, it follows Dravidian architecture style, which again is incorrect because it follows Kalinga architecture, which is a subtype of Nagara style and not the Dravidian style. The second statement, the image of Jagannath, it is made up of stone and metal similar to icons found in most Hindu temples, again incorrect because the image of Jagannath, it is made up of neem wood and not metals. The temple, it is one of Char Dham pilgrimage sites for Hindu, which is a correct statement because in addition to Badrinath, Dwarka and Rameshwaram, this is one of the Char Dham pilgrimage site. So as only third statement is correct, hence option C is the right answer to this practice question. With this, we move to another set of article which appeared in the explained section of the Indian Express, and it describes about rare failure of SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Now questions related to various satellite launch vehicles and other rockets, it has been asked by UPSC before. Case in point, this 2018 question of the prelims. So in this regard, let us understand what is this Falcon 9 rocket. Now this is a partially reusable rocket which has a two stage. Now this rocket, it is used to propel both satellites and astronauts into variety of orbits, be it lower Earth orbit and geostationary transfer Earth orbit. Now this rocket has key features that it has two stages. The first of which, it is powered by 9 Merlin engines. Now this Merlin engine was again developed by a company called SpaceX, and this engine is powered by a propellant which is made up of rocket grade kerosene as well as liquid oxygen. Now the second stage of this rocket, it is also powered but just by one single Merlin engine. Further, the most important feature of this rocket is that it is reusable in nature. That is the first stage of this rocket. Upon detachment from the second stage, it has the ability to land vertically on Earth, and hence by reusing the components, it is intended to reduce the cost of access to space. So in this regard, let us consider the following statements with reference to SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. The first statement, it is a 3-stage rocket capable of propelling satellites and astronauts, which is an incorrect statement because it is a 2-stage and not a 3-stage rocket. Second statement, the rocket, it uses liquid oxygen as well as liquid hydrogen as propellant, which is incorrect because it uses liquid oxygen as well as a rocket grade kerosene. The third statement, the first stage of this rocket is reusable and has the ability to land on Earth in a vertical manner. Again, this statement is correct because as I have already highlighted, the most important feature of this rocket, thereby from our discussion, we can safely say that only third statement is correct. Hence, option A is the right answer. Now with this, we move to last article of the day, which deals with the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme or ECLGS. Now this article, it appeared in the Business Line newspaper and it highlighted that only 6% of total loans which was extended under the scheme has become a non-performing asset. Now various schemes related to banking sector and financing has been important from UPSC. Case in point, this particular PYQ. So in this regard, let us know more about the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme or ECLGS. Now, as you can see, this scheme was introduced as per Atmanirbhar Bharat package by the Government of India, and this was brought forward by Ministry of Micro and Small Medium Enterprises. Now, this package was meant to aid businesses, including small and medium industries, which have faced economic distress caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and its associated lockdown. Now, the objective of this scheme is to assist businesses in meeting their operational liabilities and restarting their operations by providing them with credit line or funds how to meet their operational liabilities. Now, it is also important to note that the National Credit Guarantee Trustee Companies, it provides loans extended under this scheme with 100% guarantee coverage to both banks and NBFCs, which means if these loans go bad, the funds they are returned back to these banks and financial institutions by the National Credit Guarantee Company. Further, the eligibility criteria to qualify under this scheme, it includes businesses as well as individuals and also to the beneficiaries of Mudra Yojana. And the eligibility criteria in addition to this have been extended from time to time. Further, the interest rates under the scheme has been capped, that banks they are only about to charge 9.25% of interest rates, whereas NBFCs they'll be only be able to charge at max 14% of interest rates. Further, 1 year moratorium has been provided on payment of principal under the component under this loan. Also, the oversight in operational domain with respect to this scheme has been given to Ministry of Finance, that is Department of Financial Services. So based on this information, let us now quickly solve the practice question. The first statement, it was launched to support MSMEs amidst the economic turmoil caused by the global financial crisis in 2008, which again is incorrect because it was passed during the 2020 year because of the distress caused by COVID-19 pandemic and not the global financial crisis. Further, the second statement, the National Credit Guarantee Trustee Company, it provides 50% guarantee coverage to banks extending loan under this scheme. Again, it is incorrect because the company provides 100% of credit guarantee, not 50%. Also, the credit which is extended to enterprises and not to individuals, again incorrect because I have already highlighted this provides credit to not just businesses but also to individuals who have taken loan individually or under Mudra Yojana. So, as all the statements here are incorrect, hence option D is the right answer to this practice question. So, with this, we conclude our today's session of DNS and we'll see you again tomorrow 6 p.m. at sharp. So, until then, I wish you a very good night.